This is a quick overview of the cohort profile subreport of the annual assessment report. You can get to that by going to the annual assessment report and either clicking this dark blue bar here, which will navigate you there, or by clicking the tab here at the top. The cohort profile is set up to be able to show all kinds of data around annual assessments for a specific cohort and test that you have taken. You'll see here on the left there are a set of parameters which allows you to look at the graduating class cohort, which assessment that you want to look at for that class, whether you want the home, the serving, or the home equals serving. So this would be, homeschool is like the school that a student lives in their parameter. Serving is where they're taking the primary or the most of their classes during that specific year. So that would include not just the 6 comprehensive schools, but the 4 off-site but in-district schools, and then there's an off-site signification as well. And then home equals serving would exclude students who are being served at one of the off-site places. And then you can choose an individual school or look at the district aggregate within there. Each one of these reports has a couple of features. One is they have this info button which will describe what you're looking at, give a bunch of contextual information. Each one of the tiles has something similarly when you hover over or click this, which will give you what the key question that particular tile is trying to answer, as well as some background information. If you hover over a tab, you'll see that it provides an interpretation of what you're looking at. So this first set of tiles are all around looking at mean scores and distributions around all of the individual test scores that are part of the College Board suite of assessments. So here we're looking at, for the class of 2020, for the SATs, you can see here's the distribution of SAT scores. You see this bar, but if I hover over it, you can see, well, the mean for the school was 1135, the district mean was 1135 because we have district chosen, but it also tells me that 7% of the students at the selected school, the district, were at the 1120 to 1500 mark. If I wanted to compare to other schools, like for instance, if I were to choose John Hersey High School, this will take a few seconds to generate the data. It may or may not be faster depending on your permission levels and what other kinds of data are behind it. So now what you can see is these blue bars represent what high school that I'm looking at, what I've selected. So you can see blue here is Hersey. Green shows a comparison to the district. Red shows a comparison to the Illinois state. And US looks at the national norm data for the selected group. So for instance, the blue is the distribution for Hersey, and you can see the green is the distribution for the district. If I hover over one of these bars, you can see I'm seeing both the individual Hersey data, but also compared to 6.1% for the district. If I wanted to see who these students are, I could actually click on this bar, and you'll see, let me try it again. Okay, click on this bar, and you'll see a little pop-up came up that said View Students, and if I click that View Students, it'll actually take me to those students so I can see more data about them. You can see that there's these little vertical lines on the distributions which show the means for the comparison groups, and on these bars here, the blue is the mean for the selected building, and these diamonds are the comparison groups. So this would be US for orange, red would be the state, and green would be for the district, while blue is the mean for the school on this particular math test. In addition to looking at these mean scores, we also have the D214 achievement levels that have been established for EBRW and math. If you click over this, again, you'll get the interpretation of these things. If you wait a second, that should populate with some contextual information that shows you what that group is, and you'll see that I saw that View Students there as well. Again, I can hover over the information button, and it gives me context and how to interpret that, as well as what the key question is that's asking. This second group here shows what the change is from the prior year. So you'll see I had SATs chosen at the top. So that means their prior test was PSAT 10, and then I've got the SATs, which just means the state version of the SAT. And you'll see, so of the students who were, of the class of 2020, of the students who were at level 1 when they took the PSAT 10, 67% were at level 3 on the SAT, 17% were at level 4, and 17% were at level 5. So you can see that there was quite a few of the students moved up to a higher level. and similar with the math. Now, all of these scores at the top here are also limited to only students who are what we call on time. That means that they took the course, or they took the assessment at the time they should have. So they took the PSAT 10 as a 10th grader. If they got held back and took the PSAT 10 again, then that second version of the test would not be included in this data. Only these on-time assessments are included. On the bottom of this data, we're showing growth and trend data. This data is limited to students who took all of the tests on time that they could have taken that are being compared. So when we look at the 2020, which is the first cohort that has all of this data, then we see that this would be only the students who took both the 8, the 9, the 10, and the SAT all at the same time. And if you hover over this, so you can see what the mean was and how it's grown over time. And if you hover over it, you can see the comparison to the district average. This next set of assessments looks at the one-year growth benchmark. So these are nationally norm expected growth from year to year that is expected based on College Board's evaluations. So of the students who took all the relative assessments, so of the students who took the PSAT and the PSAT 9, you'll see that 38% of them were above the mean, but below one standard deviation on the PSAT 9. So these are students who did what at least as well as they were expected, if not better. And these students would be students who did even better than that. This last group looks at the College Board's established sort of grade level preparation as well as their college readiness standards, and lets you look at, for the cohort of 2020, on each assessment, what percentage of students were considered to be at which grade level. So by the time we get to the SATs for the cohort of 2020, you can see 85% of these students are college ready. Again, on any of these, I can click and I see additional information, and I can view those specific students. So I could click this View Students, and you'll see that it will actually take me to the student list that we saw as one of the tabs at the top. It takes a minute to get there. You can see here now we have listed those students that we selected that would fit into that group. It shows their contextual data of what they got on all those assessments, and I can copy that to a clipboard, or I can export that as a CSV as well, or I could do some further filtering if I would like.